Hi, I'm Ross Bentley.
Hi, I'm Jeff Braun.
And I'm Sam Smith.
And this is No Dumb Questions.
Dumb questions.
Dumb questions.
Cool.
Did I do it right? I did it right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I did
We're
it
in.
Hey, we got Sam with us, Ross.
I know. Isn't that cool?
That's awesome. We've never had a guest or a helper, or do we have to do anything now that Sam's here? He does all the work, right?
No. All the dumb questions are aimed at Sam.
Okay.
I didn't sign up to do any work. I just came here for the free punch and pie. There's free punch and pie, right? I'm here.
Yeah.
Where's the is there a media center here? Is there some kind of like swag bag? How does this work?
I heard once that you're in a media center with shoes on your ears.
No. That was that never happened. I don't know anything about that. It certainly didn't happen at Le Mans, and it certainly wasn't 2016. You're fibbing.
Yeah.
But good memory.
Yeah. Hey, if you're wondering why Sam is here, Sam's a good friend of ours, Jeff's and mine, good friend. And you probably know Sam from everything that he's written in Road and Track, Automobile, Car and Driver, for Hagerty, for, I don't know, what, everywhere. And personally, I believe is the best in the business. So if you haven't read Sam, read Sam. And Sam is an amazing storyteller too. So we're going to let you in on a little secret here. And the secret is that come January, we are launching a brand new podcast called It's Not the Car. Although maybe sometimes it is. I don't know. But
We'll see.
The engineer in the room just made a face.
Yeah. What is It's Not the Car about, Sam?
So It's Not the Car is that you can pull that title out a bunch of ways, right? It's what engineers say to drivers when drivers don't have enough on the table and just can't bring it. It's what storytellers say to themselves in my business, in car magazines and in car media, when you're trying to figure out whether or where or when or how a story mattered or a moment mattered or a person mattered. It's never the sheet metal. It's always what we do with it, how we make it relevant to the rest of our lives. You know, without a person in it, a car is just a big dumb lump of steel and plastic and carbon, whatever it is. So the podcast we're putting together is you and me and Jeff, and we're going to pull apart some of the stories from motorsport history. Could be from last week, could be from 50 years ago, and have a bunch of other threads that we're going to pull on as well. So topics we find interesting in racing, topics we find interesting in the world of new and old cars, could be anything having to do with Roth's day job, Jeff's day job, my day job, anything and everything. And we've got some surprises in store too. Ought to be a lot of fun.
I can't wait.
I can't wait. Yeah.
How can it be bad? We get to tell stories. We get to listen to other stories. Sam's stories are fantastic.
Yeah.
Our stories are, I don't know, maybe boring, maybe not.
Jeff, I'm going to say they're at least mediocre.
Okay, mediocre. They're right. So I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Should we tell the nice people when this thing is launching?
Go ahead.
So theoretically, it should be launching the second week of January. Now, if you get to the second week of January and it hasn't launched, that was all part of our plan, and we have in no way screwed up, and you should trust us forever. But January 2024, which is at time of taping, a handful of months, days away, depending on when this is aired. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And what happens with No Dumb Questions? That's the mystery. And I think we're going to weave the mystery into it's not the car, I think, right? We're going to somehow weave that mystery into it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I'm looking at my list. We have not run out of questions.
No, not quite. And so, Sam, while you're here, would you ask us questions?
I'd be happy to. I have access to your list, and it's terrifyingly expansive and deeply organized and full of many interesting colors because it was built by an engineer. It makes the anal retentive side of my heart very, very happy. A little corner of my heart that just glows in bright yellow. You guys want to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay. So our first one is on driving. Comes from Cameron. Cameron says, can you provide some input on how to better instruct intermediate level drivers? I'll expand a bit. Sometimes, as an HPD instructor, I struggle to find the best path forward for students who know the line, who are safe, who give point buys, use their mirrors, etc. With novice students, there's plenty to work on. With advanced students, it's very nuanced. You mentioned this in Break, 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 that it can be helpful to ask advanced drivers why they take a certain approach, right? But sometimes with intermediate students, I struggle to know what to work on next, since a lot of what they need to continue getting better is just seat time. So, yeah, how do you better instruct people in the middle, Ross? How does that work?
Well, first of all, I'm not a big fan of just kind of thinking about it as just seat time. I get where Cameron's coming from here. There comes a point in time where you do need more seat time, but I'm a big fan in that seat time being deliberate, being focused, being pointed in the right direction. Because I think, a lot of drivers go on track and just go, I'm just going to go and get seat time, and that's going to fix everything. And yet that's not the way the best practice. So, I'm pretty sure Cameron got that part of it, but I think, so I think that leads into really what the answer is if you have a student that you feel all they need is more seat time, then just help them define, refine, get clarity on what it is they're getting seat time on. And, there comes a point in time where it's like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Somebody could have 18 different things that they need to work on. Well, just pick one or two of them. Don't get caught up in there's this, and then there's this, and there's this, and this is more important than that. Sometimes just stop worrying about that part of it and just go, okay, let's just pick something. Hey, and it may not, you may not even know what it is the driver needs to work on, but just pick something. Like just go, hey, let's just take a session, and all I want you to do is I want you to practice looking further ahead and kind of glancing up the track and then having your eyes come back and focus on that reference point. Then glancing up the track and coming back and focusing on that next reference point. But constantly kind of flicking your eyes forward, glancing ahead, scanning ahead. That's all I want you to do. And that, is going to help somebody. So all you've done is picked one little thing and said, just do that. And it, again, you may not even notice that driver needs to work on their vision, but you're just go and do that.
I remember, Ross, it goes along that line, the pick one thing is, and you ask, really good questions to you and I were working together with a driver and we kind of got to that point and you said, okay, so what's the one thing you asked the driver, what's the one thing that frustrates you the most? And that kind of drew out the thing that at least he wanted to work on. Maybe the instructor thought he needed to work on something else, but this was the thing that was bugging him the most, whether it was corner entry to a certain corner or something. And maybe talk about that, because you can draw out that maybe what to focus on with that question.
Yeah. What am I a big fan of? Asking questions.
Asking questions.
Sorry, I had to put that in the form of a question. But yeah, I think sometimes, we as instructors, we think, oh, we need to be the all-knowing, and always have something for the driver. And sometimes the best thing is to go, geez, I'm not quite sure what to do. What do you think? Yeah. And, I can't remember, Jeff. I can't remember if I've talked about this in the past, but as a coach, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll say, ask right questions. I'll also ask a driver, and go, what are you doing right? What would happen if you did more of that? And that is a different thing than the frustrating part. And by the way, Jeff, when you were talking about the what frustrates you, probably in the, certainly, well, sometimes in the HPDE world and things like that, we don't have data. But if you had data, a lot of times what people will do is they'll look at their best lap. And what I like to do is I like to overlay 3, 4, maybe 5 laps over top of one another. And if all you have is a speed trace, and you overlap those 3, 4, 5 speed traces, and there's, generally they follow the path of, all the way through, but there's one corner where there's a big variance. That's the place to work on. Let's just go and work on that one corner, because that's the place that the driver is struggling with or frustrated by or whatever the most.
Because you can't get it consistent.
Yeah.
You can't do it the same, even if it's not perfect, but it's consistently the same. He's obviously not really struggling too much with that. You can maybe raise the whole level later, but first you got to get the consistency. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. We often spend a lot of time trying to raise our 100%. And yet the number of times I ask drivers, how often do you perform at 100%? How often do you drive at your 100%? Oh, almost never, or not enough is the usual answer. Well, okay, let's just get to the point where you can drive at your 100% more often. And then you can start to worry about improving that 100%.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So in your experience, so if you have, HPD drivers tend to be grouped into, most organizations group them into novice, intermediate, and advanced. But we all know what novice means, and we all know what advanced means. But intermediate is such a big, broad term. How these students in this group he's talking about, how should they be expected to? What should they be expected to do at that point? And how much awareness should they have of their weaknesses and strengths? And not necessarily from a standpoint of should, because that's a really dangerous word, right? But what by that point do most people have in their quiver? What can they do and can't they do?
What should they be expected to do? Everything I want them to do.
Right. Lap records every lap.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Actually, that's a good point of intermediate. A lot of drivers are in that intermediate ranking area, and it's for a variety of reasons. It could be driving technique, it could be the consistency, it could be their big huge category called mental game kind of stuff, right? And sometimes it's the lack of awareness. And as an instructor, those areas, those soft areas, are a little bit more difficult to notice and then sort of put in a plan to have somebody work on them. For example, you touched on awareness, and you might just say, I want you to drive exactly the way you have been, but all I want you to do is I want you to start to become more aware of the cars around you. So use the mirrors more often, but in the appropriate place, not smack in the middle of the corner, stare in the mirror. So practice being more aware. You should never ever be in a position where a car kind of surprises you. And you should always be thinking well ahead and going, there's a car way up there. There's that red car and I'm starting to catch it. And, by the end of this lap, I'm going to catch them, and then find out, was it the end of the lap, or was it partway through the lap, or was it 5 laps from now? So you're starting to build that awareness piece. And sometimes what you might want to do is you might want to say to a driver in that intermediate group is just, you talk to me all the way around the track. Because what I want to do is I want to see what your mental bandwidth is. If you're able to talk to me while you're driving and keep up and with everything else, that's a good sign of you're driving with with enough bandwidth left over. Because if the moment you start to talk to me, you're offline, you're missing braking points, all that kind of stuff, that's So I think there's a lot of those kinds of things that fit into that mental area that it does get more difficult. I will say, as an instructor, it gets more difficult, but it also gets more fun figuring that piece out.
That reminded me when you said about the driver talking to the instructor and explaining it. I've worked with a lot of bronze rated drivers, which is sometimes a misnomer. Some pretty good. You're working with one this year, Ross, and so was I. That world-class gentleman drivers, like probably in the top 5 in the world. And I would do things at tests where I would be like, okay, I would try to overload the driver as the engineer while he was doing a long run. And I would say, okay, we need your headlights on. We need your rain light on. Give us the tire pressure temperatures. We've lost telemetry here. That's on page 3. You got to cycle through this button to get to page 3. Read the tire pressures to us, please. And then just keep overloading the guy on the radio and watch what his lap times did. Yeah. And if his lap times didn't dip, the guy was doing good because he had that, like you said, that extra bandwidth.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that, you say that with intermediate drivers. We're doing that with, I would say those bronze drivers are advanced drivers. They're really good.
But relative to who they're rated against,
right?
They're kind of like the upper intermediates.
Right, exactly.
The bronze gentleman drivers are probably the intermediates, and with us working with the very best of those are the upper intermediates. So yeah, right. So things like that, I think are you can't go wrong with doing that kinds of thing. But again, I kind of want to go back and emphasize the part of you don't have to have all the answers, and that's a difficult thing for an instructor to admit, because the reason why people instruct, the reason why they belt themselves into the passenger seat of a car that's going to go on a track, roar around the track at silly speeds with a driver that we don't know that much about. It's
crazy.
It's a
the look on Jeff's face is just like,
no, it's crazy.
Years. No, hard no, never no.
but anybody that's done it and done it well, it's an incredibly satisfying thing to see the light bulb go on and the smile on the person's face and that whole sense of accomplishment and all that stuff that comes with it. It can be one of the most satisfying things that you ever do. So that is part of it. But, I'm going to say for most instructors, there's a little piece of the ego that's in there. And, it feels pretty good to tell somebody what to do. I'm smart and now I'm going to tell you what to do.
Right.
And that can be a difficult thing for some to turn off or to manage. But I'm going to say the sooner you get used to going, I don't have to know everything. I just need to come up with a few things and if I don't know what to do, I ask questions, like Jeff said, or I just pull something out of the hat and go, hey, we're just going to work on vision, or we're just going to work on awareness, or we're just going to work on brake release, smooth release. That's all. And break it down into the smallest little piece you possibly can and go with it and have fun.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So there's my answer, Sam.
I think that's a pretty good answer. Okay, so do we? Forgive me, I have done this before. Do we move on to engineering now, or do we?
The sooner we do, the better.
Oh no! Now I have to pay attention. I'm getting a question.
Okay, so we've got another one here. It says, I'm coming from a sim racing service called VRS. They're suggesting how to use the damper histograms, and the ideal is when compression and rebound are about the same. Meaning when those two histograms match up, when the charts for the readouts for those functions on the shock are the same. Does what they say make sense? I'm curious because a couple of my Sim Racer Academy coaches have asked about it.
Oof. Okay. This is, so first of all, maybe a little background for people that don't know. A shock absorber obviously moves in two directions, in and out, bump and rebound, we call it. And data systems will give us a histogram, like Sam said, which is basically a readout of how much time over a lap the damper is spending at certain speeds in compression and rebound. And there is a theory that you can set your shocks up, your shock settings, by looking at the histogram and trying to match those. So in other words, if your bump histogram was on the low side and the low speeds, it had too much time being spent at lower speeds compared to the rebound side, you could open up the bump damping and let it move a little faster to match the rebound. And that should make your car faster. I've never been able to actually set up dampers with damper histograms. There's probably smarter people than me. There are a lot of smarter people than me. There's probably smarter people that can actually do that. But myself, people I race against, people that beat me engineering wise on a routine basis, I've talked to about that. We've all talked about it. Not many people do that. Maybe if you're Formula One, maybe if you're, high IndyCar stuff, and you're building your own dampers and everything, you can make that work. But I haven't really looked at damper histograms to set damper settings. And I've spent a lot of time trying to figure it out. I'll be the first one to admit, if anybody's listening to this podcast and they have nailed that and made that work, get in touch with me somehow, because I want to discuss that, because I got something to learn there. To me, there is no right answer. It's like what's the right spring rate? Well, what are you trying to make the car do? I'm adjusting my dampers to help the handling of the car, to help it feel better for the driver, not the quote best damper settings. The best damper settings are the one that make the car do what the driver wants it to do, so he can drive it closer to its limit. So I'd say I wouldn't look at the histogram. I would use it as a tuning tool to affect the handling of the car.
Hey, Jeff, can we take a step back for, you kind of defined a little bit of how this works and everything, but, first of all, you swap back and forth between bump and compression. And just to clarify, they're the same thing.
Oh, yep. Sorry. That's like a understeer and push. Yeah. I use those kind of interchangeably.
Well, it's like shock absorber and dampers too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Same device.
Yeah.
Same device. So bump is when the shock absorber is getting smaller, shorter, and compression is the same. And then rebound is when the shock absorber damper is getting longer. Some guys actually, I think, used to call that jounce. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very British term.
Remember that?
Right?
Yeah.
That's German?
British.
Okay.
British, I think.
British,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, because those dampers were underneath the bonnet.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. Okay.
I know there's somebody from Britain listening to this, and they're like, well, yeah,
of course it is.
Speak properly, people.
Can I ask just another clarifying question, just because some people may not know? When you say speed, right? You're talking relative piston speed on the shock, right? On the damper itself, not speed of the vehicle, right? And
good point.
What does that mean the damper is seeing, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point. The people will say, okay, low speed damping. That doesn't mean the car's going at a low speed. That means the damper is moving at a low speed. The car can actually be moving at a very high speed and the damper moving very slowly. And so the speed of the damper is usually measured, we do it here in inches per second. And you can put a sensor on the damper and hook that into your data system, and it will measure the speed in inches per second that the shaft is moving. And, people will talk about low speed, high speed. Where that cutoff is in actual inches per second isn't like defined, but the low speed end of it is the driver feels more of the low speed actions of the damper. And the high speed is what happens when you hit a bump. When you hit a bump, that shaft moves really fast. A curb, a bump, anything like that. So you're trying to use your dampers to control two different things. And this is why this histogram, I don't think, works. Because let's say you're at a place.
Well, Jeff, can I jump in?
Yeah.
When you were talking about it, I'm kind of going, okay, a high speed track like Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You're going to get a lot of low speed shock movement just from the car loading in one direction and another, right? Whereas turn 7, the hairpin at Sebring it's a low speed corner, but you got a lot of high speed shock movement because of all the bumps.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's how fast the shock is moving. A high downforce car on a smooth track going like really Road Atlanta, let's say. There are some corners there where the car is at maximum speed in the middle of the corner and the dampers are barely moving. Then you hit those curbs, some of the exit curbs, turn 7 at Road Atlanta, you hit the exit curb and that damper is really fast and the car's going not fast at all. So you want to be able to adjust those, and most high-end modern shocks, you have high-speed compression, low-speed compression. Again, not of the car, of the damper. And you have high-speed rebound and low-speed rebound. So you can independently adjust the damping at those different shaft speeds to affect the car the way you want it. Sometimes a GT car, even prototypes, but GTs are even more dramatic in this effect. You need to run the curbs really hard, and what I mean is like almost like you're over the curb into the grass on the other side of the curb to be fast in a GT car. So you got to hit those curbs, but not upset the car. So the driver has to slow down. So you're working on the dampers to get them to absorb those high shaft speed impacts of the curbs as well as possible. So the driver can cut the course, cut over those curbs quickly. A histogram would tell you have it all backwards. You have it wrong because you would see massive amount of time spent in the high speed compression in that case. But maybe you need that to run the curbs well. So I try to use the driver's feedback, what does he need from a balance standpoint, from a curb strike standpoint, to adjust the dampers much more than a histogram. And yeah, I still look at it. I think I probably still look at it because I think I'm still missing something. Why can't I use this to make the car better? So I still try to look at it going, I must be an idiot. I just can't figure it out.
I've got a question. This is not from the box, but I am curious. So take like a P2 car. What kind of resolution are we talking about? How many, so let's say high speed bump, how many clicks of adjustment are there? And 9 times out of 10, what's the window of adjustment where you see and the driver sees a noticeable difference? Is that 1? Is that 5 clicks on a shock like that, on a car like that? How does that work?
Yeah, I want to know this.
Okay, yeah. It's a really
just share all of your setup notes for. I've got a list of like 10 tracks here. Just read off. We've got the time. Just read off the numbers. That's fine.
Okay, I'll send my damper curves over.
Yeah.
That's a really good question, Sam, because first of all, every shock is different in the clicks and the effectiveness. One of the first things we do when we get a new damper, a new manufacturer, a new internal valving or anything, is we put it in a shock dyno and we do what's called a profile or a scan. So we set all the settings at full soft and we run the shock in a dyno, and it gives us the force versus velocity curve. Then we click 1 click up on the first adjustment and run it again. Then 2 clicks, 3 clicks, and you run through all the clicks of all 4 settings. Yeah, it takes a long time, but now you've scanned the damper and you know how much each click affects the force. And that's what we're really interested in, is the force of that the damper produces at a certain speed. So once you have those curves, then you look at what you're trying to do and what the driver can feel. So to answer your question, in force, in a P2 car, a 20-pound force adjustment at a certain speed is a feelable thing by the driver. Wow. If you're trying to affect turn 1 at Road Atlanta and you want to, stiffen the front damper, if you went up by 20 pounds and you were close, if the car was close to begin with, you would feel it. He would be able to feel that. And that could be, the thing is, the clicks usually aren't linear. So 1 click, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, all might do the same. But then you get to a thing where 5 to 6 does less, 6 to 7 does even less, and the effectiveness of the clicks fall off. So if you're really into that, you got to have the damper curves to really know that answer, because you could be just fooling yourself. Oh, okay, I know from 1 to 2 I really like that. I could feel that, and now I'm up around 12, and I'm going from 12 to 13. I'll do that one click because I know I can feel one click. Probably not. It's probably different. It could be more. It could be less. The only way to know is to have a actual damper curve. Now, what's pretty cool is some of the modern dampers. They, like a lot of things in racing, you don't need a shock dyno anymore. They're doing it in software, where they've modeled the hydraulics of the damper so precisely that you could get your damper curve in the software for this damper. You put in the internal configuration, you put in the clicks you have, and it draws you the damper curve. And then you can change it by one click and it draws you the new curve. 2 clicks draws you another curve. So it's like a dyno in a computer. The same way we've done wind tunnels in computers with CFD, we've done we've done vehicle dynamic simulation. It's a shock simulation. And I can tell you some of them are so good. At first I was like, I don't believe this. And I would do it, and I would grab the damper, I would stick it in the shock dyno, and some of them are so good they just overlay. I mean, it's the dynamic, the multimatic dynamic DSSVs are so well done that I don't even worry about the damper dyno anymore. I really don't need it anymore with that. So it's pretty amazing where that's getting. Other companies are getting there too. And because a lot of these dampers are laminar flow dampers where there's not a lot of turbulence going on inside the shock, they can model that fluid dynamics pretty accurately.
Laminar flow.
Yep. Means not all jumbled up.
Oh, good. kind of like me. I'm jumbled up. Yeah. I need more laminar flow in my life. Yeah.
I kept on thinking about all this. I'm like, I'm explaining all of this. Seems like I've done that. And then it's like your Shocks for Drivers book. What's the actual name, Ross?
Shocks for Drivers?
Is that what it is? Okay.
It's an ebook. It's on my website. Yeah.
That thing is...
And you always say your, and I'm going, yeah, but Jeff, you wrote it too.
Well, we worked on it. You asked good questions like you always do. And then you did all the hard work and actually put the words on the paper. But that, I mean, I refer a lot of people to that because it's the one place, I'm sounding like I'm promoting it, but it's the one place where it talks about shocks and drivers. Most of it's all technical mumbo jumbo for engineers, but the goal to it, and it goes right back to the question, is the goal to adjusting dampers is to make the car do what the driver wants it to do, or to solve something that the driver is struggling with. And your ebook there explains how to do that and how the dampers relate to the driver and how the driver can think, okay, the car's doing this. How would I adjust the dampers to help fix it?
I need to take that line and go back and edit it and put that at the subtitle, at least, of the book. So yeah.
No, it's really good. And by the way, Ross, it's way too cheap.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, just like us.
Right. Okay. I guess it fits then.
Yeah. Well, Sam, I think I'm going to say fantastic job on your first day of asking the questions on No Dumb Questions.
Wow, we should keep.
You're good at being dumb.
Oh,
wait a minute. I didn't say that.
You want dumb questions? I've got a lot of dumb questions, but I thought the answer was no dumb questions. But
Right.
no, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. I could listen to both of you talk about this stuff all day, but then I have a lot of dumb questions.
So any chance we can kind of slip a few of these no dumb question episodes into the It's Not the Car?
I mean, you tell me.
In the future,
it's just as much your show as it is mine. I'd love to have you guys do more of this. I'll grab the popcorn and sit here and listen, man.
Okay.
what do you think, Jeff?
That might happen. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we are not out of questions. And just because we're going to do this new deal, no dumb questions is still rolling on here, at least for the foreseeable future. So send more.
Yeah.
We need more questions.
Yeah. But I got to say, I am super pumped. I guess we can admit that we've actually recorded a few episodes, right?
I think
Top
that's safe.
secret.
Yeah, top secret, but safe. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nobody listening to this podcast anyway, so it's not going to go anywhere. But
That's how we keep it secret, because nobody
yeah.
listens to it.
Yeah. And I got to say, that it has been some of the most fun stuff I've done in a long, long time. So
it has been fun.
Yeah,
it's going to be good.
It's great. I'm looking forward to it because what you guys do here, which I think we'd be silly to not keep doing in some form or fashion, but what you guys do here just emphasizes how you think and what you think about, and the fact that the two of you, forgive me, I've said this a billion times, two of you are curious. You like asking questions, and all I got is dumb questions. So
yeah, and you're really good at pulling things apart. Including
putting them back together is the problem. Ask my dad in 1989 what I did to our VCR, but other than that, sure.
Sam, tell us about that.
What if we? So we're about out of time. Looks like
We're about out
of time. Is a thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, we'll finish off. That's it for this show, and the most important thing is keep having fun.
Yep. Have fun.